The fitness industry is lying to you. And in this video, I'm about to prove it. For years we've been told that getting in shape is a simple equation: eat less, move more, and use the right equipment. But if it were really that easy, why do so many people struggle? Most people think fitness is just about following these basic rules and hoping for the best, grinding it out in the gym with the latest gear, only to find themselves stuck, frustrated, and no closer to their goals. I know this because I was one of them, blindly following advice that led me absolutely nowhere. After 3 years of deep diving into exercise science, behavioral psychology, and the real-world habits of elite athletes and everyday people who achieved incredible transformations, I discovered something that changed everything. It wasn't a new workout split, a magic supplement, or a revolutionary piece of equipment. It was a fundamental misunderstanding of what actually drives progress. This realization completely reframed my approach, and the results I saw were unlike anything I'd experienced before. It was like I had been trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Today I'm going to pull back the curtain and share the exact system that took me from a beginner, confused by conflicting information, to truly understanding how fitness really works. I'm going to lay out the 7 most crucial tools you need, and I promise they're not what you think they are. By the end of this video, you'll have a completely different perspective on what it truly takes to build the physique and health you want. We're going beyond the surface-level advice and into the science of what makes people succeed. Let me take you back a few years. I was completely bought into the mainstream fitness narrative. I had the gym membership, the shaker bottle, the latest workout app, and a pantry full of so-called health foods. I followed the popular workout programs to the letter, meticulously tracking every calorie and every rep. On paper, I was doing everything right, but my reflection in the mirror told a different story. I was perpetually exhausted, my strength gains had plateaued, and I felt more like a prisoner to my routine than someone who was building a better life. It was a cycle of intense effort followed by burnout and disappointment. The frustration was immense. I'd see others making incredible progress and wonder what secret they possessed that I didn't. Was it genetics? Were they on something? I consumed every piece of content I could find: articles, videos, podcasts, and the advice was always the same. Media group. Quick cuts of fitness articles, YouTube fitness videos, and podcasts playing on headphones at stock edit distribute _equally. Just be more consistent, push harder, trust the process. This advice, while well-intentioned, felt hollow. It was like telling someone who is lost to just walk with more confidence. It doesn't address the root problem, they don't have the right map. My map was clearly wrong, and following it more diligently was only getting me more lost. The turning point came not from a new workout plan but from a moment of quiet desperation. I decided to throw out the rule book. I stopped obsessing over what the experts said I should be doing and started asking a different question. What was I actually doing, and why wasn't it working for me? This shift from blindly following to critically analyzing was the first step. I began to realize that my failures weren't due to a lack of effort, but a lack of a personalized, sustainable strategy. The conventional advice had failed me because it treated me like a robot, not a human with a unique life, psychology, and physiology. This led me down a rabbit hole of research, not just into exercise science, but into behavioral change and habit formation. I started to see patterns. The people who succeeded long-term weren't just the ones who worked the hardest, they were the ones who had built a system around their lives that made consistency almost effortless. They understood their own psychological triggers, their motivations, and their personal barriers. They weren't just using fitness tools, they had become masters of their own internal operating system. It was this hidden insight that changed the game. The most powerful fitness tool wasn't something I could buy, it was a deeper understanding of myself. It was about creating a feedback loop where I learned from my own experience, adjusted my approach based on real data, not just numbers on a scale but how I felt, my energy levels, my sleep quality, and built a process that I could actually stick with for the long haul. This personal evidence-based approach was the key that finally unlocked the door to real, sustainable progress. A huge part of the problem is that most of the fitness advice we consume is fundamentally outdated. It's a relic from a different era, a time before we had a nuanced, science-backed understanding of human physiology and psychology. Think about the classic bodybuilding wisdom passed down through generations. Eat 6 small meals a day to stoke the metabolic fire, do an hour of fasted cardio to burn more fat, and follow a rigid bro split, hitting each muscle group once a week. These ideas have become so ingrained in fitness culture that we accept them as gospel without ever questioning their scientific validity. The reality is, the scientific landscape has changed dramatically. Modern research, which we'll look at right here, has debunked many of these long-held beliefs. For example, studies like this one from the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition show that meal frequency has little to no impact on metabolic rate as long as total daily protein and calories are matched. The anabolic window isn't a 30-minute sprint to get your protein shake in, it's a much wider time frame. And fasted cardio doesn't necessarily burn more fat over a 24-hour period compared to fed cardio. The industry is slow to adapt because the old advice is simple, marketable, and easy to sell. This creates a massive disconnect between the information people are given and what actually works in the modern world. We live in a time of unprecedented stress, information overload, and competing demands on our time. A training and nutrition plan designed for a 1980s professional bodybuilder whose only job was to eat, sleep, and train is simply not applicable to a working professional, a student, or a busy parent in the 21st century. The advice isn't just ineffective, it's often counterproductive, leading to burnout, guilt, and the feeling that you're the one who failed, not the program. The modern reality of fitness demands a more flexible, adaptable, and individualized approach. It's not about finding the one perfect program, it's about having a toolbox of strategies you can deploy based on your schedule, your energy levels, and your personal preferences. The goal is no longer rigid adherence, but intelligent management. It's understanding the principles like progressive overload, energy balance, and protein intake, and then applying them in a way that fits seamlessly into the context of your actual life. So, the first tool we need to discard is the idea that there's a single, one-size-fits-all set of rules. We need to replace outdated dogma with modern, evidence-based principles. This means becoming a critical consumer of information, being willing to question traditional wisdom, and prioritizing what the current body of scientific literature actually supports. It's about shifting from being a passive follower of advice to an active, informed participant in your own fitness journey. The landscape has changed, and our approach must change with it. This brings us to the core of the issue, and what is arguably the most misunderstood aspect of getting in shape. The real secret to long-term success isn't hidden in the minutiae of exercise selection or macronutrient timing. The secret is understanding the psychology of fitness. We are not logical machines that can simply execute a perfect plan indefinitely. We are emotional, irrational beings driven by habits, beliefs, and our environment. The best designed training program in the world is utterly useless if you can't get yourself to do it consistently. Most people approach fitness as a purely physical challenge. They focus all their energy on the what and the how, what exercises to do, how many reps, what foods to eat. They completely neglect the why. Why do you sometimes feel motivated and other times can't drag yourself to the gym? Why do you stick to your diet for 3 days and then find yourself derailing on the 4th? These aren't failures of willpower, they are predictable psychological patterns. The real battle for your fitness goals is fought not in the gym, but in your mind. Understanding these psychological drivers is the game changer. This involves concepts like self-efficacy, which is your belief in your own ability to succeed. Every time you set an unrealistic goal and fail, you chip away at your self-efficacy, making it harder to believe you can succeed next time. It also involves understanding intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. If your only motivation is extrinsic, like looking good for a vacation, it's likely to fade. But if you can cultivate intrinsic motivation, finding genuine enjoyment in the process of getting stronger or feeling more energetic, you build a source of fuel that never runs out. This is why two people can follow the exact same program and get wildly different results. One person might view a tough workout as a challenge and a sign of progress, reinforcing their commitment. Another might view it as a punishment and a sign of how unfit they are, increasing their desire to quit. The physical stimulus is identical, but the psychological interpretation is what determines the long-term outcome. The real tools here are psychological ones, reframing your mindset, building resilient habits, and designing an environment that makes the right choices the easy choices. So instead of just searching for a better workout, we need to start building a better mindset. This means celebrating small wins to build momentum and self-efficacy. It means identifying your personal triggers for unhealthy behaviors and creating strategies to manage them. It means focusing on the process and the identity of being a healthy person, rather than just fixating on a distant outcome, like a goal weight. The technical details of training are important, but they are secondary. Mastering your own psychology is the foundation upon which all lasting physical transformation is built. When we talk about fitness tools, most people immediately think of physical objects. Dumbbells, resistance bands, heart rate monitors, or, those fancy smart scales. And while some of these can be helpful, honestly, they're all surface-level solutions to what is often a much deeper problem. The industry loves to sell you these tools because they represent a simple, tangible fix. Feeling unmotivated? Buy this new pre-workout not losing weight? Buy this new fat burner or this high-tech scale. This approach keeps you on a consumer treadmill, always searching for the next product that will finally solve your problems. But the real challenge, the one that keeps people stuck for years, is almost never a lack of the right equipment. The real challenge is deeper. It's the underlying system of beliefs, habits, and identity that, dictates your actions day in and day out. Giving someone a set of dumbbells without addressing their belief that they're not a gym person is like giving a world-class paintbrush to someone who doesn't believe they can paint. The tool itself is powerless against the limiting belief. True transformation doesn't come from a new tool. It comes from addressing these underlying issues. Let's think about it this way. Your fitness results are the tip of an iceberg. The visible part is your body, your strength, your performance. The tools you use, the gym, the equipment, are just the water surrounding the iceberg. But the vast, invisible mass below the surface is your mindset, your habits, your environment, and your identity. Most people spend all their time trying to chip away at the tip of the iceberg or changing the water around it, wondering why it doesn't fundamentally change shape. The real work is done below the surface. This is why so many people experience the rebound effect. They use extreme discipline and a new, intense program, a surface-level tool, to force a change for a few weeks or months. They might lose 20 pounds for a wedding or a vacation, but because they never address the underlying structure, their relationship with food, their coping mechanisms for stress, their identity, the moment the intense discipline wanes, the old habits and beliefs pull them right back to where they started. The iceberg simply returns to its original shape. To create lasting change, you have to go deeper. You have to work on the part of the iceberg that's underwater. This means identifying and challenging your limiting beliefs. It means systematically replacing destructive habits with constructive ones. It means consciously curating your environment to support your goals. It means shifting your identity from someone who is on a diet to someone who is a healthy, active person. This is the real work. The physical tools are just accessories to this much more profound internal process. So, how do we actually work on that part of the iceberg below the surface? After years of research and, honestly, a lot of personal trial and error, I've codified this process into what I call the 3-layer system. This system organizes your entire fitness journey, making sure you're working on the right things at the right time. Most people fail because they try to jump straight to advanced techniques without ever mastering the fundamentals, or they master the physical basics but never address the psychological foundation. This system fixes that. Layer 1 is the foundation. This is where we establish the non-negotiable basics of exercise and nutrition science. These are the big rocks. For training, this means understanding and applying the principle of progressive overload, the idea that you must continually challenge your muscles to grow stronger. It means choosing a reasonable training frequency and selecting compound exercises that really give you the most bang for your buck. For nutrition, it's about understanding energy balance, calories in versus calories out, and making sure you're getting enough protein to support muscle repair and growth. This layer is the pure science, the objective truth that governs results. Layer 2 is the strategy. This is where we move from general principles to personalized application. It's one thing to know you need progressive overload, it's another to know how to actually implement it in your own workouts when you're tired or only have limited equipment. This layer involves intermediate strategies like choosing the right periodization model for your goals, managing fatigue, and implementing diet breaks or refeeds to make fat loss more sustainable. This is where we tailor the scientific principles from layer 1 to fit your individual life, your preferences, and your biofeedback. This is the art of coaching yourself. Layer 3 is the psychology. This is the deepest and honestly the most powerful layer, the one that most people ignore entirely. This is where we find the psychological triggers that drive extraordinary results and unwavering consistency. This layer is all about mastering your internal world. It involves techniques for cultivating intrinsic motivation, building an identity that aligns with your goals, and developing what psychologists call an internal locus of control, where you actually believe you're in charge of your own destiny. It's about using tools like visualization, mindfulness, and habit stacking to hardwire success into your brain. Most fitness content lives exclusively in Layer 1, and some advanced stuff touches on Layer 2. But almost no one talks about Layer 3, even though it's the operating system that runs everything else. You can have the perfect plan from Layers 1 and 2, but if your psychology in Layer 3 is working against you, if you have limiting beliefs, if you're purely extrinsically motivated, if you have a victim mindset, you will inevitably fail. True mastery comes from integrating all three layers, creating a synergistic system where your knowledge, your strategy, and your psychology are all aligned and working together. If we distill the three-layer system down to its most actionable components, we get what I call the universal success formula. It's made up of 3 M's: mindset, method, and momentum. This formula really explains why most people fail and at the same time, gives you a clear roadmap for success. The vast majority of people who struggle with fitness are putting like 99% of their focus on only one of these 3 elements, the method, while completely ignoring the other 2. They're constantly searching for the perfect workout routine or diet plan. The first and most critical component is mindset. This lines up directly with Layer 3 of our system. Your mindset is basically the collection of beliefs, attitudes, and assumptions you hold about yourself and your ability to change. If you have a fixed mindset, believing your abilities are static and unchangeable, every setback will feel like proof that you just can't do it. But if you cultivate a growth mindset, as defined by psychologist Carol Dweck, you see challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. Failure isn't a verdict, it's feedback. This is honestly the most important fitness tool you can ever possess. The second component is method. This is your specific plan of action, pulled from Layers 1 and 2. This is your training program and your nutritional strategy. And yeah, having a good evidence-based method is important. It needs to be effective, efficient, and sustainable. But the perfect method honestly doesn't exist. There are a lot of good methods out there. The fatal mistake people make is program hopping, jumping from one method to another every few weeks because they aren't seeing instant results. They blame the method when the real problem is their mindset or lack of momentum. That brings us to the third M: momentum. Momentum is the bridge between your mindset and your method. It's this powerful force you build through consistent small actions. Success breeds success. When you start executing your method, even imperfectly, and achieve a small win, like sticking to your plan for 3 days in a row or adding 5 pounds to your squat, you generate momentum. This momentum feeds back into your mindset, strengthening your self-efficacy and your belief that you can actually do this. It's a powerful, positive feedback loop. Most people fail because they break this loop. They have a weak mindset, so the first sign of difficulty makes them question their method. They switch methods, which kills all their momentum and forces them to start from zero. This failure then reinforces their negative mindset, creating a vicious cycle of defeat. The key is to see these 3 elements as an interconnected system. You must first fortify your mindset, then commit to a reasonable method long enough to build real momentum. So, we've deconstructed the lies, explored the psychology, and laid out a new model for success. But as I always say, knowledge without action is worthless. So let's make this incredibly practical. Here are the exact action steps you can take, starting today, to implement this system and finally get the results you deserve. These are the real tools you need to add to your arsenal. The first, and honestly the most important, is to consciously adopt a growth mindset. This is your number 1 priority. Start by paying attention to your self-talk. When you miss a workout or eat something off plan, what is your immediate internal reaction? If it's self-criticism and thoughts like "I always fail," I want you to actively stop and reframe it. Say to yourself, okay, that wasn't ideal, but it's just one data point. What can I learn from this so I can do better tomorrow? Treat every failure as a lesson, not a life sentence. This single shift in perspective is more powerful than any training program. This is the first and most crucial tool. Second, Commit to one reasonable method for at least 30 days, no matter what. Choose a simple, evidence-based program that fits your schedule. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be good enough. For nutrition, focus on one key habit, like hitting a daily protein target. The goal here isn't to get dramatic results in 30 days. The goal is to break the habit of program hopping and start building the skill of consistency. By committing for a set period, you give yourself the chance to build momentum. Third, you must intentionally build that momentum with small, undeniable wins. Don't set a goal to lose 20 pounds. Set a goal to complete your workout today. Don't overhaul your entire diet. Set a goal to drink a glass of water first thing in the morning. Track these small wins. Put a check mark on a calendar. Each check mark is a deposit into your self-efficacy bank account. It's tangible proof that you are someone who follows through. This is how you build the unstoppable force of momentum from scratch. Finally, the seventh and final tool is to join a supportive community. Willpower is a finite resource, but social support is not. Surround yourself with people who are on the same path, who understand the struggle, and who will celebrate your wins and encourage you after a setback. This could be a training partner, an online group, or a community like the one we're building. A positive social environment makes every other step easier. It normalizes the behaviors you're trying to adopt and provides a safety net of accountability and encouragement. We've covered a lot of ground today, and we've gone much deeper than the typical surface-level fitness advice. We've seen that the most effective tools aren't things you can buy, but principles you must adopt: a growth mindset, a consistent method, and the power of momentum. It's about shifting your focus from the external to the internal, from blaming the program to mastering your own psychology. This is the real path to building a body and life you're proud of, and it's a path that's available to every single one of you. If you're serious about succeeding and want a structured environment to apply these principles,